Good morning, everyone. Welcome to church today, and we thank you for joining us on this video link. And first and foremost, we just want to say thank you and keep up with what God is doing in your household. A number of things that we want to announce today is first and foremost, remember that we have services every Sunday morning and Sunday evening, starting at 10 o'clock Sunday morning and Sunday evening at 5:30. We have that, and also on Wednesday starting at 6:30 in the evening. Make time to join us on that. All those joining us by video link, you shall see these postings every one of those days. On Sunday morning, you shall see a link that will come up, and you can always join us on these services right here in the Porter's House in Festac Town. Also on Sunday evening, the same will be happening on Wednesday. So we're not relenting, we are keeping on with what God has called us to do, so please make time every time to do that. The church, house churches are doing very good. From the few people I've talked to are doing that, getting to do that. Remember also on Tuesday and on Thursdays, we have prayer through the app Zoom in, and we pray together for an hour between 6 and 7. The prayer goes 30 minutes on Zoom and 30 minutes you pray by yourself or with your family in your house. We're trying to encourage people to pray together corporately as a church, but also as a family or as an individual, that you can take 30 minutes every Tuesday and every Thursday to pray and God to help us. Remember also the restrictions that the government has given us. Please be aware of that. Wash your hands, social distancing, stay at home, and all that. We are going to survive this if you can keep up with those restrictions. I just also want to thank Brother Destiny Lawrence for his time, dedication. He's the one doing all these video links and video footages. I want to thank him for his time and dedication, and may God bless him. Apart from that, remember to also be a giver in these times. I know we hear so many stories on the internet. People are not working, people, I know all that, but still, God is a blesser. Does it mean because you're not working that God has stopped blessing? Does it mean because we are locked down, God has stopped blessing us? No. Let's keep giving to the house of God. We know that even right now, as we are here in the church building recording this, we're running a diesel generator so that we can bring this message to you in your household, in your heart, in your spirit, so that you can be in touch with Jesus Christ our Lord. Okay, apart from that, let's get straight to our message this morning. And I want to minister from the book of Numbers, and chapter 14 and verses 39. I want to first and foremost establish something very profound here. In life, you are going to face difficulties. Just like the world today, in this COVID-19, difficulties everywhere. The economic repercussions of this COVID-19, nobody can even estimate them. We don't know, but difficulties. But it's important to understand what God teaches about those moments when you feel defeated, when you're going through difficulties and frustrations. And this is one of those sermons that I want to minister to you right now for where you are. Please open up your heart and listen to what the Bible says. Numbers 14 verses 39 going down. Then Moses told these words to all the children of Israel, and the people mourned greatly. And they rose early in the morning and went up to the top of the mountain, saying, "Here we are, and we'll go up to the place which the Lord has promised, for we have sinned." And Moses said, "Now why do you transgress the commandment of the Lord? For this will not succeed. Do not go up, lest you be defeated by your enemies. For the Lord is not among you. For the Amalekites and the Canaanites are there before you, and you shall fall by the sword, because you have turned away from the Lord will not be with you. But they presumed to go up to the mountain. Nevertheless, neither the ark of the covenant of the Lord nor Moses departed from the camp. Then the Amalekites and the Canaanites who dwelt in that mountain came down and attacked them and drove them back as far as Hormah. Let's pray. Father, thank you for today. God, I give you glory, I give you honor, I give you praise, and I give you worship. Thank you, God, for this morning. God bless every person, every listener right now. Visit, God, every place where, God, this sermon is being heard, God. Touch, God, all these people. Meet with them, God. I thank you, God, for this great privilege, God, in this season, oh God. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. The United States military has suffered some of the most embarrassing military campaigns in modern history. Places like Korea, Vietnam, Kosovo, Panama, Somalia, Iraq, Afghanistan. They have suffered so much embarrassment in battles. We know the Black Hawk Down, we know the stories of Vietnam, Korea, and all those places that they fought for years in these places. But they still remain to be the most powerful and elite military today, and probably in all of history. The question is, how come you've lost so many wars, so many battles, so many engagements and campaigns, but you are still the elite force in the world? I was reading an article by a man named Bob Farley, and he says these words about this question. He says it's because the U.S. military learns from their defeats and they make the necessary changes. If you have lived life any amount of time, you realize that not many things go according to plan or what you intended to be. Life is not something that you can say, I plan it to be this way, to turn out to be like this. As a human being, you will find you are constantly making adjustments to what life gives you. I was reading another article. It said that these words, it says, many people think the problem is in the individual, but sometimes it's always in the circumstances. And most people fail to adjust to those circumstances. Dwight Eisenhower, the 34th President of the United States, said these words: "In preparing for battle, I've always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable." We need to plan, but you find that the environment and the situations we enter also throw things at us. Life is a constant battle for survival and sustenance. Listen to me on that statement. Life is a constant battle for survival and sustenance. And everything we aspire for falls between those. We plan and scheme, and there's nothing wrong for that. But what will happen or come to pass, only life knows what it will yield to you. You and I are likened to a military general governing or leading our own selves into battle. And as you do that, you are leading and you're going to make adjustments according to what battles you engage, what the enemy is doing, the intel you have, and what comes with that. Polybius, a Greek historian, said these words: "A good general not only sees the way to victory, he also knows when victory is impossible." The problem with this generation is we have told we have been told and taught only one side of victory. And that's the triumphant side, whereby you engage and you win and you stand up and you're lifting up your hands and your voice and you're celebrating. Most of us are sports fans. We like the triumphant victory where your team scores a goal and you're celebrating on top of your voice, and when you win the championship, you win the cup, and that's the triumphant type of victory. That's what we've been taught most of the time, that life, if you're battling, you're just going to go in and fight and come up with some victory that's just triumphant. But tonight, this morning, I want to talk to you about another type of victory. And that victory is a victory that comes from defeat. Defeat happens when you have an unsuccessful ending to a struggle or contest. Defeat comes with the feeling that accompanies an experience of being thwarted in anything, in attaining your goals. It's when you're frustrated from attaining your goals. You feel defeated, deflated. Defeat is when you have aspirations, you have plans that you want to execute or you've executed, but the results show you've been unsuccessful, you've been outwitted, and you hold into your hands or into your feelings defeat. Our text is an interesting moment of the wilderness journey of the Israelites. They had just heard the report from the spies. The Israelites, remember Caleb and Joshua, the 10 spies go into the land, they spy out the land, and they come out and they tell a story that, you know what, they are giants. And Caleb and Joshua say, no, we can defeat them, but you know, democracy plays a part there. They listen to the other ones, and you know, that's the decision that's been made. And the Israelites are feeling defeated right there. Right that moment defeat plays out. Can you imagine that, you know, they've been aspired, they left the Egypt to go to the promised land. And they get to the promised land and, you know, they're excited, definitely. And they are all enthusiastic, zealous about what's to come. Yes, we're about to go in. And they come back, the spies come back with a negative report. And the feeling that accompanies an experience of being thwarted in attaining your goals comes in defeat. And they complain against God. That's our text there where we catch now Moses goes out and tells them what they've done is wrong, and the people repent. They come up and say, we have sinned against God. They realize their mistake. But let me say something. They were defeated. Psychologically, mentally at this moment, they are at a low. What's next? The promised land is occupied by giants. We are in the wilderness. We can't go back to Egypt. We are in the wilderness, and psychologically and mentally, they're in defeat. Emotionally, they're defeated. In this state of a defeated mindset, they go and engage the enemy. This is the essence of this story. They are in a moment of defeat psychologically, emotionally, mentally. But what they do, they go up and engage the Canaanites and the Amalekites in battle. And Moses tells them not to go, because he understands a basic truth. You are not in the right frame of mind to engage into battle. He alludes to the words of Polybius. A good general not only sees a way to victory, he also knows when victory is impossible. Moses says he can look at the morale with the Israelites and he says, no, this is not going to bring victory. And he tells them, no, No, do not go up. I've encountered several times over the years people that would come ask for some kind of advice. They'll come to me and we sit down in my office and say, they've been going through most of the times a dry spell, no money for months, and sometimes even years. They've just been struggling. And it comes to a time that now they have, a deal has broken through. Some money they've been waiting for has come in. And they'll come sit down with me. And I know I'm looking at them. And I'm saying, I'm like Moses. And I'm saying, you're not in the right frame to really go out and spend money. Cool down, sit down first, relax, give it a bit of time, begin to think things through. Sit down, relax, take your time, But most of the times I've seen people get up in those moments, they leave my office, I've just told them, and they go out. The next thing you know, they're bringing some, gadget they bought, old raggedy car or something that they wanted, and they went and bought it. A few months later, they are back in that economic depression, and they are worried, but I shouldn't have bought this. I don't know what came over me. And they talk like that, and you find out most of the time that they end up in the same predicament that they were trying to avoid in the first time, simply because they engaged in battle when they were defeated. Mentally, physically, sometimes. Spiritually. I've seen people come from sicknesses and immediately they want to go back to work, and I understand that. But sometimes I say, listen, wait, give it some time. But you know what? They go out and you find the same thing occurs. They're back on the bed, and it's something that you say, Moses is caught up in something like that. These people are not ready to go out and engage in battle at this time. They've just heard a negative report from the spies. They come and they complained against God. God is angry against them. Then they come back and say, God, we are sorry. Yes, they've repented, but the moment they finish that, they say, let's go on into the land now. They don't have the right frame of mind. You see, what is your frame of mind in the battles that you engage? The first defeat I see in people, and most of the time, is when a person cannot overcome self or the power of their own desires. These Israelites, they want to get into the promised land. They want to go into land filled with milk and honey. Legit, good thing. But here's the problem, they are not in the right frame of mind to get there. But their desire becomes overwhelming. Just like I said, I've seen people do those kinds of things whereby their mind frame is not ready. They are not in that capacity to do that. But they do it anyways. That's what Moses' advice gave me. You have to you have to be able to know that, have I conquered my desires at this time? Because we all have desires. There are things we want to do. But most of the time we engage when our minds are not ready. Our physical abilities, we are not ready for battle. Israel goes out and challenges the Amalekites and the Canaanites. And they end up being beaten completely. All the way they run away from battle. Their self-ambitions took over and they lost the battle. Numbers 14:44. But they presumed to go up to the mountaintop. Nevertheless, neither the ark of the covenant of the Lord nor Moses departed from the camp. Moses did not go with them. The ark of the covenant, which is the Israelites, whenever they went to battle, they carried the ark of the covenant, symbolic of God's presence with them. But in this moment, they go up without any of that. They just say, no, we're going to do it by ourselves. Listen to me. When you are firstly going, you cannot overcome self. You know, in life, one of the things that's going to fight you all the time is you. There is all kinds of theology out there. Oh, the devil, the demonic, and all the stuff we talk about. But let me tell you, one of the biggest enemies we have is ourselves. Our desires. And to fight those when you cannot... Listen, they go up here and now we find them, they become negligent. They begin to have oversight. They cannot see what they need to go in battle with. They're going without a leader. They're going without the presence of God. I've seen people hide now from, oh, I can't tell pastor that I'm going to do this because otherwise he told me the opposite of that. And they go in and do something and you know the result of that. They went in without the presence of God. They went in without their leader. I've seen people do all kinds of stuff. I've seen people go to a doctor and the doctor tells them do this and do that. Take this medication, be on this kind of behavior. But you find they don't. And that's the same thing. They go into battle without the presence of God, without their leader, without the rules and the people who are going to lead them, people who know. They go in and they're dissipated. The Canaanites beat them. Luke 14:31. Or what king going to make war against another king does not sit down first and consider whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? The second type of defeat you always see in people, the inability to put the right things into consideration. I said these two things, I'm going somewhere as we go along here. The first defeat is always to contain self. Self-control is a virtue in the Bible. The second is always to contain or put the right things into consideration. They don't consider the ark. They don't consider the leadership. And they say, let's go and do it. Since we've repented, let's go out there. And Jesus alludes to that. What kind of king goes to war without first considering what is able? Interesting in all this is that they run up to a place called Hormah. The name of this place, Hormah. It ends here in verses 45. Then the Amalekites and the Canaanites who dwelt in that mountain came down and attacked them and drove them back as far as Hormah. Hormah is a very interesting word in the scriptures. It means to ban something, place something under a ban, place something under a prohibition, to forbid something, to put a blockade on something. That's what Hormah means. Hormah is also the same city you see in Judges under the name of Zephyr. It's a Canaanite name. But in this place is where they run to. And we find that now at home, the Israelites do something different. Numbers 21 verses 1 to 3 begins the story again here. The king of Arad, the Canaanite, who dwelt in the south, heard that Israel was coming on the road to Ethraim. Then he fought against Israel and took some of them prisoners. So Israel made a vow to the Lord and said, if you will indeed deliver these people into my hand, then I will utterly destroy their cities. And the Lord listened to the voice of Israel and delivered up the Canaanites, and they utterly destroyed them and their cities. So the name of that place was called Hormah. Now here is now Israel. The same place where they had defeat becomes the same place where they have victory. Please listen to me this morning. You see, you can be irrational sometimes in making decisions and you've not put yourself under self-control. You do not consider things before you made decisions and ended up losing. You have to learn to turn these things to become victory for you. We find now here is the Israelites. They're in Hormah and they fight, and this time the strategy is different. Hormah is a place where say things are banned, banished, prohibited. And I want to say to you this morning, there are things in life, if you're going to have victory, that you have to learn to admonish, to prohibit, forbid, and make blockades on in your life. Certain ways of thinking, certain ways of doing things. You have to say, I will no longer do this thing like this. That's how you gain victory in your defeat. Because you have to say, no, I will not be able to do this again. I started off with the illustration of American forces. They went to Iraq, they went to places and they discovered some of their equipment was problematic. The way they trained their forces was problematic. And they banned because we shall not train our soldiers like that. We shall not do this thing like this again. We shall not carry equipment that's like that. And they redeveloped all this thing and they turned those defeats into victories to become the most elite force in the world today. What I'm saying to you is look at the Israelites. They say, if you will indeed deliver these people into my hand, then I'll utterly destroy their cities. Remember first in chapter 14, they just got up and said, listen, we are going. Out of our desire, we want to cross over to the promised land. We're just going to face them on the mountaintop. This was by their own desire. But we find now in chapter 21 here that they are fighting now under the will of God. They've changed. They've taken self out. Their self-interest. No, you don't hear them here fighting the Amalekites and the Canaanites based on them getting into the promised land. They fought them because they knew it was an enemy of God that needed to be removed. Self-aspirations and ambitions are wonderful things to have. But when you put them under the will of God, they bring forth victory. We see them here, they did not fight, they considered God. They went to God. When they saw Arad, the king, coming against them, they went to God. And the Lord listened to their voice and delivered up the Canaanites. You see, there are places where you've had defeat. Let me tell you, those are the same places, your Hormah, that you can have victory. All you have to do is banish certain things out, certain ways of doing things. Is it Einstein who said these words? Only a fool keeps doing the same thing and expecting different results. You have a mandate. Right now we are all under lockdown, isolations, and whatever they call it, quarantines. You have the time to re-strategize. Places where you've lost, you've got defeat, where you're feeling, oh, you know what, this has not worked out for me. Don't give up. Come back and re-strategize. We find Israel in the same place of defeat. Hormah becomes the same place of victory over the same enemy. Don't give up. This is time that we have. God has given us this time to re-strategize, to consider things, to put down self, and look at, and I tell you, we shall arise again and reach greater heights than ever before. Turn your Hormah place where you had defeat to become the Hormah of victory. Interesting in life. When you watch these military forces, again back to the United States Army, they've learned to fight in all kinds of terrains in the world, because in those places they had defeats, but went back and adjusted, and today they can fight anywhere, anytime. And this is what I'm saying to you. Your mindset has to be one that, you know what, let me push down self. Let me go in by the will of God. And sometimes the will of God will say, wait, be patient. Be patient, wait. And you say, okay, God, I'm putting down self. Just like those people, sometimes God will say, don't buy it now. Don't buy it. Don't purchase it now. The will of God, don't do it now. Don't do it now. You will do, but not do it now. And you'll sit down and wait. And victory will be yours. You consider things, what if I lose money in the next 6 months? I will not invest here. Let me wait. What if I do this and it doesn't come out the way I want it? You put things into consideration. You make the adjustments, just like the Israelites. And the same place of defeat became the same place of victory. Let's have every head bowed, every eye closed this morning. I want to thank you for your time and to come to this service, to be able to watch it by video. I want to talk to you. I want to say, if you're not born again, you're not giving your life to Jesus, just where you are, quickly bow your head. Jesus is the only Savior of the world. Yes, there are many religions in the world, but I tell you, Jesus is only truth, the way, and the life. No one comes to the Father unless through him. Without Jesus, we're just running around the cycle of life, listening to some teachings and things like that. Jesus died on the cross so that you can have salvation. Just where you are there, heads are bowed, eyes are closed. You're not saved, you're not born again, you know what's in your heart. Pray this prayer with me and you shall be born again. Mean it sincerely from your heart. God will speak to you. Just say, Lord Jesus, I'm a sinner. I've sinned against you. I've done things wrong. I've offended heaven. I've offended man. I've offended in many places, oh God. But Lord, I ask you for your forgiveness. Ask in the name of Jesus who died on the cross for my sins. I've sinned, oh God. Forgive me. Make me new. Let all things pass away. Behold, let everything become new in my life. Let me become your servant to serve you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. If you've prayed that prayer, you are born again. For the rest of us, let's take some time where you are. Find a place to pray. Turn that place of defeat to become a place of victory by making the necessary adjustments, mentally, physically, spiritually. The adjustments. Once you make those adjustments, just like the Israelites, the next time they went up now with God. Remember, they had left the ark, they had left Moses. But this time they went up with God and his presence, and they had the victory. You will have victory. You can be sitting in a place of defeat. You can turn it to become a place of victory. I want to thank everybody as you continue to pray for joining us. You can continue to pray in your household for as long as you need to. May God bless you.